So amazing. Now this definitely deserves to have Best Animated Feature. This year, no doubt.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember,
I'll anybody to drive.
Get in the car.
Fucking shit! Fuck me in the fucking ass! Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt!
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for Dreamworks' newest release that happened a few weekends ago, that is The Wild Robot, which is directed by the How to Train Your Dragon creator, Chris Sanders. Back with a new feature for Dreamworks, that was following like the last one he did was How to Train Your Dragon The Hidden World. What is the plot of The Wild Robot? Well, after a shipwreck, this intelligent robot named Roz, voiced by Lupita Nyong'o, is stranded on an uninhabited island. To survive the harsh environment, Roz then bonds with the island's animals and cares for an orphan baby goose who she names Bright Bill. So, how was this film made? Well, ironically last year, Dreamworks announced an animated film adaptation of this book series that was called The Wild Robot that was written by Peter Brown. I didn't know this was a book series around the time I saw the trailers for this, and Chris Sanders was going to write and direct the movie. Jeff Herdman was set to produce, and Sanders' longtime creative collaborator Dean DeBlois would serve as executive producer. Other crew members were announced, like the production designer Raymond Zibach, editor Mary Blee, and the head of story Heidi Jo Gilbert. Then Sanders, how got happened was Sanders first encountered Brown's book through his daughter, though he never read it himself. Then years later, while looking for his next project at Dreamworks, Sanders was offered an opportunity to direct an adaptation of the book for the studio. And when Sanders read it, he immediately fell in love with the story and felt he was the right person to adapt it to film. And the book was apparently simple and emotionally complex from his perspective. He had previously considered the idea of a creature bonding with animals when he was making Lilo and Stitch in 2002. He then contacted Brown and would describe the phone call as it was important to developing the film. Brown had told the production team that his intended theme for the book was kindness could be a survival skill. And Sanders sought to weave that theme for the film and felt he achieved the goal. And another theme Sanders wanted to touch on was motherhood, and also achieved in that goal. So anyway, after The Wild Robot was shot and marketed, The Wild Robot would go on to premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 8th, 2024, and would be theatrically released in the United States to the public on September 27th, 2024. So far at the box office, this film has grossed over $100 million worldwide against a $78 million budget, and this movie has shockingly got DreamWorks' highest critical acclaim, and probably their first to receive this much acclaim since the first How to Train Your Dragon in 2010. Now as for my reaction, so y'all know I reviewed Kung Fu Panda 4 earlier this year, and hated it. And I tried to believe that maybe DreamWorks would be making a comeback, but 2023 and Kung Fu Panda 4, they pretty much had me thinking DreamWorks really was dead. And the trailers for this, the trailers did kind of make me think this was going to be an Iron Giant knockoff just with animals this time, and a robot. But after seeing everybody apparently really love this, and apparently finding out it was actually a book series, I was actually willing to give it another benefits watch because that's sometimes the thing I am willing to do for many people. Now, I actually was able to catch this last night. I was originally going to go catch it tomorrow night, but I was able to catch it last night. How was this movie? Oh, this, honestly, was so amazing. I absolutely loved this film. Like, this might easily have to be, I think, the best animated movie of the year, and honestly much better than Inside Out 2, if I'm being honest. And when it comes to how I'd rank this, oh man, I think it's a tie between either this or Dune Part 2 for what would easily be my favorite movie of 2024. It'd be either Dune Part 2 or this. Easily. These would be the top 2 favorite movies of the year. Like, Chris Sanders comes back right when he's needed. Like, I have a feeling this is definitely going to go down as one of the greatest animated films of the 2020s and one of the greatest animated films in cinema. Like, this just shows that, like, seriously, why can't Chris Sanders be the one running DreamWorks, not Chris Meledandri? Like Chris Sanders should be the one running Universal's animation properties. Like, this is proof that Chris Sanders would be a perfect president for DreamWorks. Like, why can't this guy be running DreamWorks? This guy really does well. Right here. Like, How to Train Dragon films. This movie. This is proof, like, this guy needs to be the one running DreamWorks. This is, like, definitely one of the most gorgeous looking animated films of this decade. Like, it's stunning from start to finish, it's got enchantment, and it's incomparable beauty, and it fills the screen with color and life. Like, this is, like, the closest you get if DreamWorks did make a Studio Ghibli-styled movie. There's times when it's kind of hard to process everything they have to show you in this film. The story itself, like, it's pretty simple in concept and essence. Like, it's not overcomplicated, it's a pretty simple story. But that would make some people criticize the film that are expecting something more complex, but I like the story's just simple. And there's not too much complicated stuff going on. Like, it executes everything well it wants to do in an exquisite and irresistible way. Like, some don't really seem to know that even narratives as simple as this do require a lot of effort to make it work. And it does look easy with this film because it doesn't really need to do much. It wins you all kind of over right away as soon as the movie starts. It's a movie journey from beginning to end, and it's full of beautiful themes and a literally captivating level of characters that definitely are very well rememberable and actually definitely deserve to be remembered. The pacing is pretty calm. It knows to take its time with necessary patience. The action is very measured. It's electrifying when it happens. The emotional moments really hit hard, but they're not like forced emotional moments. Like, they're emotional moments that like really do hit you and it feels really hard. Like, they really do work because you feel attachment to the characters. This movie has a lot of emotional moments, and I'm gonna be honest. I almost cried. I think I almost cried quite a few times when I saw this last night. Like, it gets really emotional, and the emotional moments are very well earned from everything they've built triumphantly. The humor and melodrama are balanced just right. It's kind of a little more focused on the dramatic side, but it's one of those dramatic moments that really warms your heart in a very cozy and touching way. The musical score is beautiful. Like, when you have composer Chris Bowers, who does a really great job of the score, like when it plays in the big parts of the film, it feels very terrific. And the voice cast is very perfect in all their roles. Lupita Nyong'o is very wonderful, and you really feel the emotional connection to Roz through her voice performance. It's very inspired and dedicated. And Pedro Pascal, Kit Connor, as the characters Fink the Fox and Bright Bill the Gosling, and Pedro Pascal as Fink was actually pretty hilarious and definitely a pretty decently good comic relief. And a pretty good sidekick to Ross. And the rest of the supporting cast definitely has a lot of great names. Like, some are strongly dedicated to the material. Like, hell, you even have Mark Hamill actually voicing a bear. One of the animals is a bear that's voiced by Mark Hamill, and at first I didn't realize it. I had no idea that was actually Mark Hamill when I watched the film until this morning when I looked at the cast, and I was shocked to realize that was actually Mark Hamill voicing the bear. Like, this is like a good example of what a family movie should be. No PC propagandas, no woke BS, no forced LGBT themes that are not done well. Like, yeah, I'm talking to Disney when I say that. Like, this is a film that delights all audiences in a different but equally satisfying ways. It does the hard work of captivating its audience through the genuine effort in such an efficient way, and it's hard to know how they manage it. It does really well. Like, this is a film that, honestly, it's definitely worth the watch to go and see. Right here, because it's very perfect. Like, it's a perfectly great family movie. And And this was a film I got really immediately attached to when I immediately saw it last night. And it's easily, like, not only is it my favorite animated movie of the year, but, like, now it's having some tough competition with Dune Part 2 for easily my favorite movie of the year. Right here. Like, this is probably, like, I think this and Dune Part 2 are definitely the best two funnest times I've really had watching a film new release this year. So how does this movie all start off? Well, we start off on an island where we see a family of otters. They come upon this robot washed up against the rocks. And the robot, which is Rosm7143, or short for Roz, the lead character, is designed to be this helper bot to complete tasks for her users. Then this wave hits Roz and she climbs up the walls and witnesses a crab climbing up, adapting and learning to survive. So, when Roz is in the forest, she thinks she's required to help those animals. So she tries to help the other animals in the forest, but because of her appearance and her being a robot, she ends up frightening her and angering them due to the miscommunication. Roz then programs herself to learn the animals' language, and it takes a couple of days until they understand each other. The animals refer to her as the thing or the monster when they meet her. They try to wreck her or even kind of steal pieces from her and stuff, but they all end up running away when they see she can fix herself up after getting knocked over. And there's times when she does get into slapstick, but she's a robot, so she doesn't react to any of the slapstick. So that's pretty creative right there. I like that they actually have this character not really react to the slapstick they put themselves in. Just kind of confuse all the slapstick because they're new to this world, and honestly, her trying to adapt to this world actually did get a bit of a laugh out of me easily. So with nothing else to do, Roz tries to activate a beacon to call for her makers to go back to her place and get retrieved. But she gets struck by lightning, kind of like Johnny Five in Short Circuit, and as her body being rummaged by gritty raccoons, Roz fights off the raccoons and helps her get herself mostly back together. One of the raccoons steals her beacon and Roz chases after it, but this ends up disturbing Mark Hamill's character, which is the bear named Thorn. Right there, and so the bear chases Roz after slashing her, and Roz then falls down a hill and crashes into a tree and destroys a goose nest. And that's where this is pretty much how the film kind of really starts off. It's the first 20 minutes, it's Roz trying to adapt to this forest and all these animals that are frightened by her appearance, and it does start off kind of like an outcast story at first, but it's an outcast story that does surprisingly work because, for one, these animals have clearly not seen a robot before because they live in the forest. Why? How else are they going to see a robot in the forest? It looks nothing like them and it's not really human. But Chris Sanders really assembled this perfect team of perfect animators, perfect artists, perfect designers to create this very revolutionary, groundbreaking movie that's influenced by perfect innovations in feature animation and with the whole animation style that looks to bring Roz and the world of the wild robot to life and it works really well here. The music and songs, they're beautifully written and they're very well performed. And the Academy Award winner, the score composer Chris Bowers, he really does well in writing the score and the songs. And of course, another artist named Maureen Morris, performing 2 original songs for the film, and having this indie folk ballad called Kiss the Sky. The stuff is pretty important to the film. The 2 artists do really well in capturing the score very well, making the score emotional, making the score exciting. And the film's core message of tech, climate, survival, and tear-jerking emotional drama, they make this film a per winner for a lot of stuff. All the movies this year, this one really has the emotional connection to me easily. And you're the core message is there's a message of climate and there's a message of environmental message, but they're not over preachy, they're not over forced, they don't overhog the film. They're done well paced and they're done well paced and they don't overhog the whole movie. They're not the whole plot of the film. Yeah, and the voice cast was very well picked. Lupin Nyong'o is perfect as Roz. A newcomer British sensation and Kid Connor, who voices Bright Bill, the Gosling that she has to raise, I'm going to get to later, also does great. Pedro Pascal, as Fink, the Fox character, was pretty funny and also very enjoyable too. I did like the scenes that him and Ross would have together on screen. Right there, where he starts off as kind of a bit trouble and a bit annoyed being stuck with this robot. but I do like how they kind of do start their friendship off pretty well. It's kind of the first animal to not really be afraid of her. You also have Catherine O'Hara voicing a possum named Pinktail, who has these kids that like, what's their gag like, where they die, where they're like worried of like dying or something. You have Matt Berry as Powler, this like beaver that's obsessed with building the largest like dam, and Bill Nighy is this other Gosling named Longneck that helps like Brightbill learn how to fly. And yeah, you also, heck, even have the legendary Vin Rames as this Falcon and Thunderbird. Like this cast all gives their best performances in a film, and definitely one of the best casts in an animated movie. And throughout the film, you have this great tapestry of human experience, like comprising experiences of love, nature, the connection, the belonging, and every frame, like through the music, the colors, and the narrative, and composition, the environments, like they communicate their own way, the essence of like experiences, and when they're very well put together, they create something far greater than far greater than a lot of other films this year have. So, after Roz ends up landing on the nest, Roz finds she has accidentally killed the mother and her eggs, but finds that one was actually managed to be spared. So Roz takes the egg with her and tries to study it, but then the Fox character Fink tries to swipe it from her. Roz chases after Fink and manages to get the egg back, and then he falls on top of a porcupine. Roz removes the quills from Fink and then sees the egg hatching, and a small Gosling emerges, and it prints it like it keeps emotionally connected to Roz and just never leaves her. Roz does try to leave the Gosling alone, thinking that she completed its task, but the Gosling continues to follow Roz. She tries to reactivate her beacon, but the Gosling ends up breaking it. And then Roz encounters Pinktail and her 7 children. Pinktail sees that Roz is harmless, explains that the Gosling sees Roz as his mother because it's the first thing he saw, and Roz does not think she's programmed to understand motherhood, but she takes it on as her like new task after Pinktail describes raising the Gosling as such. And so the fox named Fink, who does try to eat the Gosling multiple times, does join Ross with his offer to help her raise a Gosling, but if it like means getting free food out of it. And Ross then, so they're trying to come up with names, and like Ross is only programmed to like give numbers as names, and like Fink doesn't like any of those ideas. Eventually she's able to come up with a Gosling named Brightbill, and then teaches him to call her Roz because he cannot pronounce her full name. And then of course we see this beaver named Powler trying to build this like big enough dam and so Roslyn ends up learning how to build this like big enough home for herself, Brightbill, and Fink. And Brightbill has trouble sleeping, and Fink tells this story that makes Ross seem like a hero that pretty much came to help Brightbill when he was feeling sad. So kind of having to somewhat kind of hide the truth from Brightbill and what really happened. But then the next few months, then Ross's code then starts to reprogram, and her speech kind of gets more human and more normal and not robotic. And then Brightbill's now grown up, and he's now voiced by Kit Connor. As he gets older, he still doesn't know how to swim, and then Ross tries to get him to learn how to fly. Then he tries to meet some other geese, and they look down on Brightbill because he behaves like Ross and is a runt compared to all the other geese. And they break the truth that Ross pretty much ended up causing the death of his actual mother and unhatched siblings. And so Brightbill is upset and then disowns Ross as his mother. Right there, this is like the middle act of the film. So like the concept of the film is really brilliant. It's saying this robot survived in the woods, and the plot establishes the relationship between a robot and nature really well. This robot having to become this like mother to this Gosling after accidentally causing the death of its family, or having this friendship with this fox, and this fox kind of has to try to put others instead of himself first. Anyway, I also kind of learned some things about kindness as well. Here, and yeah, when it comes to Ross as a character, I really love Ross as a character. Like Lupita Nyong'o gives a terrific emotional voice performance as a character. Yeah, she's a robot, but this is one of the robots in a long time you feel an emotional connection to as soon as she's introduced. Because Lupita Nyong'o's voice performance as a character and learning her emotions through Fink and as the movie progresses, she starts to kind of become more and more human-like and not robot-like. It's like, this is probably one of the best robot characters in cinema, up there with characters like Officer Murphy in RoboCop, or Johnny Five in the Short Circuit films, or Wall-E, up there with the ranks of those characters for robot characters. Like, at the heart of the story is like Roz's transformation from a machine to a creature with a heart. What has to learn the ropes of parenthood with a fox named Fink. Like, yeah, like they're kind of a duo on screen, but no, they don't have a romantic like chemistry. It's just a friendship. Like, Fink's kind of like her mentor. It's kind of teaching her the ways of life. They kind of have to help raise Bright Bill, the orphan Gosling. And it's where the film like really does well shine. They have themes like family, community, the power of love to transcend so much programming. The animation style, it's I guess almost Spider-Verse like, but it's not overly trying to copy Spider-Verse. So it's simply stunning. Like, it's not about like making the scenery look good. You have to tell a story through the movement and the light and the other textures and stuff. It's like when Roz integrates with all the nature, the growing moss like that grows on her after a winter storm, or sprouting flowers on there, like her transformation is really well symbolized. And the metaphor like really does elevate the emotional depth of the film. And it's definitely a film that easily can really touch the hearts of the viewers. Like, Lupita Nyong'o's performance like brings this human touch to the metallic character and definitely does make her one of the best protagonists in an animated film. Like, her journey is really, her journey of just really well emotionally mirrors Roz's own development, and it makes her such a perfect standout character. And the heartfelt score by Chris Bowers like really does well in connecting to the emotion of her journey, and it makes it really deeply moving for the audience. So, after Bright Bill disowns Roz after finding the truth, Roz goes back to the cave where she got washed on, finding the broken and rusted remains of other Roz bots, manages to turn one back on, and she thinks the task of motherhood has become impossible, but the bot finds out that Roz has reprogrammed herself and gives her its beacon to call for her company to retrieve her. Roz prepares to leave, but after having a talk with Fink, she decides she's going to finish helping Brightburn learn to fly. So she enlists this older goose named Thunderbolt, then Rames' character to help. So yeah, it's actually nice to see quite a few legends in this film, and so Roz and Bright Bill start to make progress, and Roz is spotted by observing goose named Longneck, voiced by Bill Nighy. I really like this stacked cast. Yeah, there's like many other great actors I like in this film. So has Longneck who leads the flock for the migration. He says in the press that Roz is teaching Bright Bill, and nothing the young goose is more unique than the other geese, and warns that they leave in a week and he needs to work on his endurance. So the day the migration arrives, and Bright Bill successfully joins the other birds in the sky, and Roz becomes emotional having to say goodbye, so she runs to higher ground to catch Bright Bill again. And Longneck sees this and has them fly close enough to Roz to see them one last time. And then Roslyn goes to turn on her beacon, and the signal then does reach her company, which is called Universal Dynamics HQ. But she decides not to go back home and just turns it off and goes back to the forest house she built. Then eventually, during the migration flight, the flock then gets caught in a storm, so they have to seek shelter at the HQ in their greenhouse. But when they're trying to stay hidden, Bright Bill gets spotted by other Roz bots. At first Bright Bill does think Roz has followed them there and tries to see her, but he sees it's all the other Roz bots, and they see the birds as an infestation, and they try to immediately eliminate them. Longneck knows that Brightburn was used to Roz, and it makes him essential to knowing how to deal with the bots, so more armed bots then show up to fire at the flock. And Bright Bill does guide him towards an exit, and although Longneck ends up pretty much sacrificing himself to save the flock. So, unfortunately, Vin Rames' character is out of the picture. No, Bill Nighy's character is out of the picture. Never mind. I almost confused them for a second. Again. It's Bill Nighy's character that ends up out of the picture. What sets The Wild Robot apart is its ability to really invoke the deep emotions. It's a film that, focuses on robot and animals. It taps into human emotions. Yeah, they did really well with such a kind of simple enough concept like this. Roz's journey towards connection or struggle to be accepted by the animals of the forest, and her willingness to sacrifice for others, brings this unexpected emotional depth to the story. In the final scenes, they really just make you feel the emotions in the final bits, and it's the kind of movie that really makes you reflect on relationships, selflessness, and empathy. And the film offers, moments of lightness and humor, Roz's interactions with the animals, at first they start off pretty funny, when she's trying to figure out where she is, and then later as the movie progresses, they all go to heartwarming when she finds the Gosling, and then and then kind of befriends Fink. Like the young animals on the island, they bring the sense of playfulness and cuteness to the film that makes it accessible to enjoyable to be really enjoyed by younger viewers. And there's many laugh out moments, like Ross is trying to understand the nature, and it has the misunderstandings and the humorous situations, or like when she first meets the Gosling, that becomes Bright Bill, and or when she first meets Pinktail and sees the Gosling following her. Oh, okay, hello, this Gosling's yours. Negative. That Gosling stalks me and makes noise and makes simple tasks more complicated or more impossible. Or how about Fink? Or like anytime Fink's first trying to eat the Gosling, or like Fink is a pretty funny character and Pedro Pascal makes him very entertaining. And or this is scene during a snowstorm and all the animals are like freezing out there, so they decide to bring all the animals to selflessly go bring all the animals back to that forest home, and one of them's a skunk that's buried in snow, and Fink doesn't want to save it, like, this guy's already dead, and Ross clearly doesn't, like, get mad, but just, like, calmly saves the animal and tells Fink, not funny. Like, yeah, the comedy really works here, like, it's not overforced, like, Marvel comedy, like, no, it's only comedy when it needs to happen. Like, it really also does add to the breathtaking visual style and the top-tier animation. They all bring the island's wild beauty to life. Like, that's both soothing and awe-inspiring. And from the rustling trees to the animals' movements, DreamWorks really does bring this terrific spectacle without losing sight of the emotional core of the story. What's impressive is the film's sound design too. Like the music and sound effects, they complement the story. They add to the atmosphere and emotional weight of the film. The soundtrack like beautifully blends uplifting and somber tones that heighten both the adventure and the introspective scenes, and the sounds of nature get integrated with the film, so the island does feel alive and immersive. Like it's exactly a movie you can expect whenever there's a DreamWorks film done by Chris Sanders. A mix of happy, sad, tearful, joyful moments seamlessly. It's kind of like what they do with, like, it kind of feels like it's up there with the film's emotional moments of films like Kung Fu Panda 2 or the How to Train Your Dragon movies. So it's kind of like those moments right there. Right there. It doesn't shy away from important lesson moments, and they don't like sugarcoat the reality of life and all it entails. Right there. So yeah, like they portray like the whole hardships of life rights. They don't like play it safe. They actually show you that living life is not easy. So during the winter storm, Roz reawakens in the house and finds Fink was sleeping next to her because of the snowstorm, the cold temperatures, and the animals can't survive in it. So Roz goes out and pretty much risks her life to go out in the cold with Fink to retrieve all the animals in the forest, even Thorn the bear too. But, well, like, when they bring all the animals then start fighting. They grow antagonistic towards one another after they're packed inside Roz's house. And so Fink has to intervene and call for a truce. And guess what? The first animal that agrees to the truce is literally Thorn the bear, Mark Hamill's character. So he promises not to hurt any of them. And so the animals then back down and agree they have to settle their differences if they want to survive their hibernation. Then have to sleep in the cold and freeze to death. And Roz is kind of a little frozen and a little weakened from bringing all the animals back. But then, of course, spring arrives and Roz is growing moss and grass, kind of symbolizing that she's becoming more human and not robotic-like. The animals then leave the house, and the birds return along Bright Bill, and the flock return from the migration, and greets Fink again, and joins the geese in mourning Longneck because Longneck had died. Then Bright Bill goes to find Ross, but Roz has left the house. And Roz is walking, but then a dynamic ship descends, and Stephanie Hsu's character, Vontra, has been sent to bring Roz back because the heads want information obtained by her during her stay on the island. So Roz then joins Vontra, and Fink arrives in time to tell Roz that Bright Bill is a return for her, and Roz tries to make a run for it, so Vontra sends these other armed bots to go after her. And the other animals decide to actually protect Roz. They knock the robots down, they break them apart, but Vontra causes the robots to destruct, and the forest gets set on fire. And this finally is able for Roz to be taken. Here's the thing, like when I first heard of this movie, yeah, sure, I thought it was an Iron Giant ripoff, but after seeing all the reviews and seeing the movie, it actually really wasn't, and I found out more about it when I got home. I found out it was actually based off a book series. Like, I didn't even know this was based off a book series. And it's also like, this film can also be further proof that many people often say animation is just for kids. Well, this film is one of the many that proves it's not just a film, genre for kids. Animation can be enjoyed by everybody. Like, this is like kind of animated films I want to see more of, like, get created in the future and put like more originality. I love for the art of filmmaking. You're like, this masterfully explores the complexities of also not just like life and nature and climate. It also explores like becoming a mother with Roz's story arc, the deep sense of unpreparedness that accompanies such a profound experience, and the robot character like struggling to nurture and protect this Gosling that she doesn't fully understand. It's literally like kind of the perfect challenges a lot of our mothers always face raising us. It's a heartwarming reminder of like the strength, love, and resilience that really defines motherhood. Everything our mothers went through, like, so that we'd all have a future. Right there. And now we'd all grow up to live perfectly successful lives. The wild robot just further really opens my mind of wildlife and really, well, of wildlife too. Like, another thing, like Chris Sanders, like, yeah, sometimes Chris Sanders can use a lot of overused tropes and messages in films, but like what he does them like films like this, How to Train a Dragon, Lilo and Stitch, he executes them very flawlessly, and that pattern also continues with this movie. So now we get on to the finale of the film, where after Roz has been taken, Brightbill leads the geese to rescue Roz, and Von Trier tells her she's gonna have her memories wiped to reprogram her, but Brightbill manages to break his way inside, but Roz has been seemingly shut down, and Roz nuzzles up next to her, and calling her his mom and saying he loves her, like, oh my god, like, this part right here really almost had me in tears. Like, guys, I remember, I almost was in tears multiple times watching this film. Like, this was such a well-acted moment. Like the voice actor really does, like, you really feel the voice actor's emotion when he's saying this line. It's so well done. And Roz, like, like, I did kind of know Roz was going to reactivate, but it's also really, really heartfelt moment when she comes back. And her energy comes less from her head and more from where her core used to be. Like, she's kind of grown a bit of a heart. And tells Brightbill she loves him too. And it's such a beautiful scene right there. Von Trier tries to take him down, but the other geese use the ship's guns against it and destroy the ship. Roz's hand detaches to turn on this magnet and drains Von Trier of all her power. Then Roz puts Brightbill inside her body as they fall back down to the forest and the ship goes down. Then the other animals go to the tallest tree in the forest, and Paddler has been trying to chew down for ages and redirects the water from the river to the forest to put out the fires. So even the beaver that's been trying to build the largest dam and cut down the largest tree, he decides to put others first over himself and help put out the fire in the forest. So the smoke has been cleared, and the other animals then hail Roz as a hero, but then another emotional scene happens, and she tells them that she has to return to the company for the safety of their animals, because like more Von Triers will probably come back, and she warned that they'll just keep coming back for Roz, and this forest will eventually be destroyed. Fink is easily sad because he's losing his only friend, but Pinktail, Thor, and Patter say they are his friends and that he can talk to them. Like, also a very beautiful moment right there. And Roz bids Brightbill and all the other animals farewell and waits for another ship to arrive. Like, oh my, like, this is another scene that really almost had me in tears more. Right there. These animals, like, go from fearing this robot, but after she saved them from Winter Storm, like, now they all really love her and they don't want her to leave. And this is such a very well acted scene right there. Like this really does well. This scene does very well in bringing the emotion to the viewers right here. Like, Chris Sanders does terrific in really making the viewers have such an emotional attachment to these characters. Yeah, this was like the other time I almost cried watching this film. 7 months pass, and the animals build this new home to shelter themselves in the winter. And Finn continues to tell the younger animals stories about Roz. And then we find out that Roz is working in the greenhouse and is going by her old Rozum name again. And then Brightbill emerges from one of the crops to find her, as she tells him, "I am Rozum, but you could call me Roz." And Brightbill is happy to see that Roz still has her memories. And Brightbill then embraces his mother once more. And guys, guess what? That's where the film ends, but you do get an after credit scene where apparently Fink and Paddler planted this tree where the tallest tree once stood. So a new tree's been planted there, and They planted there, so it's a nice little book close. And so I like it ends with Roz and Brightbill meeting again, and they're like, it was like perfect way to end the film. Like, that's the end of the Wild Robot, guys. Like, quite the emotional journey. Like the bit when the animals are bidding farewell to Roz, or Roz embracing all of them and knowing she has to return her base to avoiding more wildlife being damaged, or when Brightbill tells Roz that he loves her as his mom, when she's all shut down and resolves her memories quick, or the last shot on Brightbill and Roz reunite. So beautiful moments. Like, this is emotion that really does feel earned. Like, now I'm starting to wonder, with films like Lilo and Stitch, or the How to Train Your Dragon 2 and The Hidden World, and this movie, man, honestly, when it comes to Chris Sanders making animated films, he really likes to he really seems to love tugging at the viewer's heartstrings, and actually making the tugging at the heartstrings feel earned. Now, does this Wild Robot have bad qualities? I'm gonna admit, the bits with the skunk when it sprays at Roz, or I didn't really like the jokes with the skunk. I think that could have been taken out. The weakest aspect of the Wild Robot does have to be the writing, but even with that said, the film still manages to tell this breathtaking, emotional, and powerful story that really touches your heart. It takes a simple concept, turns it into a phenomenon, and you have the dramatic stakes, and it makes it easy to catch the audience's attention to see what's really going on. But I can admit, like, the substance can be kind of lacked in, like, the first 20 minutes, but other than those, The Wild Robot, such an amazing flick, and I can definitely see it's becoming a masterpiece of the 2020s decade. So in the end, guys, so watch and buy The Wild Robot for your collection, no doubt, if you're still willing to give DreamWorks a chance, that is, because this is such an amazing movie. This definitely would, and this might be tied neck and neck with Dune Part 2 as my favorite movie of the year, if I'm being honest. I don't know which one's going to take in the number one slot, but maybe Dune Part 2 will still keep the number one slot, or hell, maybe this might even dethrone Dune 2 for the number one slot. Anyways, guys, that's it for my, you know what, I'm going to call this an epic movie review. That's it for my epic movie review of The Wild Robot, and if you're wondering how to rate The Wild Robot, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are looking for an amazing animated movie this year, then this is totally your pick for that, because it is such an amazing achievement in animated cinema that is totally worth the attention from the viewers. And if you're wondering how to rate The Wild Robot, I'm going to give The Wild Robot a phenomenal 10 out of 10. Here we go, guys. That officially wraps up my review for The Wild Robot. So yeah, I'm glad I went and watched this instead of Joker 2. I was warned not to go. I was warned that how bad Joker 2 was, so I picked to go watch this instead. And I'm glad I went and saw this. I'm glad I went to watch this. And I can definitely see why so many people love this, but now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys saw of The Wild Robot. And until then, that will be it for this epic movie review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.